What's going on, guys? Jacob Ober here. Hope you all are having a very safe, happy, and healthy Memorial Day weekend. So, as you guys know, the pandemic's going on. It's been very, very difficult for me to think of, Packer sports-related content, Wisconsin sports-related content to make because there's just nothing going on. Usually I would be talking about the Bucks and their playoff run or the Brewers or the Packers gearing up for training camp right now, but unfortunately none of those things are currently happening right now, so I kind of have to work with what I got. And I did take some inspiration from some of your guys' suggestions in the community tab post I did yesterday, and I thought that a series called Packer Top Fives would actually be a pretty good idea. I saw some people telling me to, make lists of things, and, since this is a Packer channel, for the most part, Wisconsin sports in general, but the main draw, of course, is the Packers content. I thought Packers Top Fives, meaning a top five list of anything Packers related, would be a very, very good idea for my channel. So, the first entry in this series, and I'm going to try to do it roughly weekly or so. I'm not sure. There's not really a set date or anything that I'm going to do it every week, but I'll just try to do it at least once a week for the time being. But the first entry in this series is going to be the top 5 games that I personally have experienced as a Packer fan. So, obviously, I wasn't alive to see, Super Bowl 31. I wasn't alive to see, the Ice Bowl or anything like that, so I can't really put those in my list because I wasn't there to experience it. I can only do from what I have experienced, and I've been a football fan ever since I was about 7 years old, so I've been a football fan for about 13 years now, and I've seen a lot of really, really good games. So without further ado, though, let's get right into it here. The number 5 Packer game that I have witnessed on my top 5 Packers games list is 2018 Week 1 versus the Bears. Now, the season as a whole didn't really work out too well, and if this game had taken place in a season where the Packers had made the playoffs, it might rank higher on my list. But since we went 6-9-1 that year, it doesn't really rank higher than 5. But it's still, of course, in the top 5. And really, the big thing with this game, this is probably the most resilient I've ever seen Aaron Rodgers. Like he wanted to win this game. You could tell very, very, very clearly. I mean, he went down with the injury. We were down 20-0. God, what? He might not have went down when it was 20-0. It might have been before that. But he tore up his knee. It looked like he had blown his knee or ACL or something. I thought for sure he was out for the season and it was just going to be a complete wash. And we were going to lose yet another year without Aaron Rodgers. I was just so devastated. And I mean, the way he came back out on the field and just was so surgical. I mean, he was lights out. He was just playing so well. Probably the best I've ever seen him play in one half, to be honest with you. I mean, given the circumstances, of course, it was week 1. It was against a really, really good defense. It was, his knee was injured. I mean, it was just so amazing to watch him go out there and play and lead the 20-point comeback. And of course, he made some magnificent throws, and then there was the throw over the middle to Cobb that ended up winning the game for the Packers, and then the Packers ended up sealing it on defense. Just a amazing game. I was so excited. I was so thrilled. Couldn't stop thinking about it for the rest of the week. Coming in at number 4 on my list of top 5 Packers games that I have witnessed is Week 17, 2013, Packers versus Bears, Rodgers to Cobb on 4th and 8. Now this game, it was the first game that Rodgers was coming back from injury, and because he was out from week 8 or 9 going forward, and we had to play with Scott Tolzien and Matt Flynn. I remember they had both just kept us barely afloat. There was that one comeback against the Cowboys that just actually missed out on my cut for the top 5 games. It was a couple weeks prior when we had that big comeback with Matt Flynn throwing 4 touchdowns. But this game, I remember it so well, my reaction to the play. I remember it was 4th and 8. It was the third 4th down on the drive that we had to convert. It was just, I was so stressed out in the moment, and it was like, my God, how many 4th downs are we going to have? We have to keep this drive going. It was the season on the line right there. There was no moment and it happened 3 times, by the way. I mean, there was the one, 4th and inches where we got it with John Kuhn, then there was a 4th and 5 or something that we converted with a throw to the outside to Jordy Nelson, and then there was this one, and this one really felt like, the big one. It was like, if this is the play. Something big's going to happen on this play. And I remember just sitting there. There's nobody home, so, I could be as loud as I wanted. But I was just sitting there. I was so nervous. I was shaking. My palms were just drenched in sweat. And seeing Julius Peppers come around the corner and then Kuhn throwing that block, it was like, oh my God, I had a heart attack in that moment. And then Rodgers flicking his wrist and Randall Cobb was wide open. It was like a miracle from the heavens. I mean, I was just overjoyed. I threw my hands up. I was running around the house screaming as loud as I could. It was truly a moment of pure joy for me, and I will never, ever forget it. And then, of course, Sam Shields had the interception on the Hail Mary that ended the game for good, and the Packers went to the playoffs. Coming in at number 3 on my list of top 5 Packer games that I have witnessed is the Rodgers to Rodgers Hail Mary against Detroit. I think it was week 15 in 2015. Now, this game, the more I think about it, I think if the Packers didn't win this game, I don't think they make the playoffs. And that's what makes it so huge. And, of course, my reaction to it was amazing. I remember coming into this season, I was at Lambeau Field with my friend Ryan. Most of you know him as Brew Pack, of course, the Brew Pack channel. And we were at Lambeau Field, and I remember, I was just walking around the Lambeau Field atrium with him, and I said something like, imagine if we won a game this season on a Hail Mary. That's something I've always wanted to see. And lo and behold, Rodgers throws 2 Hail Marys that season, one to win, one to tie. Of course, the one in Arizona, I left that one off the list because we lost, but this one was I remember there was just this feeling of dread. I thought, oh my God, we're gonna blow a 6-0 start. We were down 20-0, same as the first game on my list, the Bears versus the Packers. We were down 20-0, and I remember I was watching it in the basement with my dad, and he's like, well, what can I tell you? Everything just fell apart, but that's football. And the entire time I was just so angry because I felt like this was the game we could finally get back on track. And, seeing us slowly chip away, and there was one play, I think it was Julius Peppers was offsides, and it killed the 3rd down stop for us. And I was just so mad. I was enraged. And, just seeing, and the Packers, God, I'm sorry, I'm speaking at a mile a minute here. I'm just remembering all of the things that happened during this game. There was the 3rd down and 10 or something that Stafford completed over the middle. It was just barely out of the reach of the cornerback, and they converted it, and I thought, that's the game, we're finished. But we get the ball back, and there was how many seconds were there? There was maybe 10 to 20, maybe 25. So Rodgers has a few plays. He just kind of whips it downfield. There was one play he threw to Aberders, and he was interfered with, I remember, on the play. The defender had his head turned away from the ball, and he was pushing him, and they didn't throw the flag. And that was just another moment. I was just so mad. And then, of course, there was the last play. He throws it to Jones, and they throw it back to Rodgers, and then they grab the face mask. And this was a little bit controversial at the time. Still, he still had the finger in the face mask, but I remember seeing Rodgers get thrown down, and there's just a sense of dread that just set it. My God, we really lost to the 1-7 Lions. And then I see the flag, and I'm like, oh my God, they grabbed his face mask. And it was one more play, we get it at the 35-yard line. I didn't know if Rodgers could get it there or not. He might have been able to. I wasn't sure. But then I remember seeing him, roll out, escape pressure, and then I heard Phil Simms say he's going to get it there. And I was like, oh, shoot. And I remember seeing the ball, it went almost straight up in the air, and it was coming down, and I remember seeing Richard Rodgers just hanging out underneath, and I'm like, oh my God, he has a chance. And he comes in, he gets it, and it was imagine the Rodgers to Cobb thing that I was talking about, times 5. That's how excited I was, and I had to temper my excitement a little bit because my mom was in bed. I was still watching it with my dad, and I remember my dad was just he didn't even react at all. He's just in total shock. He's like, I have never seen anything as amazing as that in my life. And we ended up winning the game, and it was just, man, reliving that was an amazing game. That was an amazing moment. Coming in at number 2 on my list of top 5 Packer games that I have been alive to witness. Some of you might be a little bit confused by this, but I'm actually going to put Super Bowl 45 here. And the reason why I'm going to put Super Bowl 45 here and not at 1 is because I was 10 when this happened, or actually 11 years old when this happened. I wasn't fully into football like I was today, or like I am today. I still, of course, loved football a ton, but it wasn't to the level that I was today. If we had won a Super Bowl today or next year or something, it would certainly top this list. But I just wasn't totally into it like I am now for it to rank higher than my number 1. But still, I was so happy after we won the Super Bowl. I remember, being with my dad watching it, and we were just celebrating the whole thing. It was just, I remember when the Steelers got the ball back at the end, and Rodgers, by the way, was magnificent in this game. I mean, no one talks about this Super Bowl performance, but this was one of the best Super Bowl performances I've ever seen, and, of all time, by the way. I mean, he probably could have thrown for like 5 touchdowns because there was some drops, and over 400 yards. There was the drop by James Jones, I remember. It was certainly going to be a touchdown. He had got him across the middle, and the defender had fell down, but he dropped it. It went out of his hands. And my dad and I had a nickname back then for Jones because he dropped the ball all the time. We call him Stinky Jones. But yeah, that was that game. I mean, I remember when Roethlisberger and the Steelers got the ball back. I thought, oh my God, they're gonna go down the field. They're gonna do what they did to the Cardinals to us. And I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God. But then there was the 4th down play, and I think it was Jarrett Bush and maybe Nick Collins. I'm not 100% sure, but they came and broke up the pass, and I remember Troy Aikman talking about, oh, there's going to be a pass interference, and I was like, no, we had him. They didn't throw a flag, though. We saw the replay, and there was actually no pass interference, and then seeing Rodgers take that knee and putting the ball up in the air like that, oh, man. I saved the newspapers from the next day. I was just so happy. And my dad, I think I remember my dad telling me, savor this Super Bowl, son, because it's not something that happens very often. This was quite a remarkable run for the Packers. Don't ever forget it, and I certainly have not. And the number 1 game on my list of top 5 Packer games that I have witnessed is 2016 divisional game versus the Cowboys. I have never been as happy as I was after a sporting event as I was this one. Oh, it might be close with the Final Four with Wisconsin, but in terms of football, I can never remember being as happy and overjoyed as I was when the Packers won this game. Now, I remember this game. I was so excited for it because I felt the entire week like we could beat the Cowboys. I felt like, man, we can beat them. We can totally beat them. And we had lost to them earlier in the year at Lambeau. And I remember that game was just so frustrating because afterwards all the Cowboys fans came out in droves to social media to talk crap to the Packer fans. And I was so mad after that game. But it was just like something inside was just boiling and brewing for such a long time. And then finally I was like, oh yes, we're going to get a chance to play the Cowboys, the number 1 seed in their own stadium, the place that we had won the Super Bowl 6 years earlier. And we get to go in that stadium and beat them, and in the way we did too. I mean, the way that throw to Rodgers to Cook was probably in the top 3 throws for Aaron Rodgers' career. I would say it would be both of his Hail Marys, with the exclusion of the one in the Giants game. I'm talking about the ones at the end of regulation, both of those Hail Marys and this throw. Those are probably the top 3 Aaron Rodgers throws ever. And, I mean, I remember not thinking they had completed it at first. I'm like, he didn't complete that, did he? No. He was out of bounds, totally. Then they showed the replay, and I'm like, that's so amazing. How did they do that? And, hearing afterwards, with Rodgers talking about he just drew up a play in the backyard, that just added to the legend of it. But the whole game itself, we had jumped out to the big early lead, 18-point lead early on. We were up 21-3, and I remember the Cowboys just kept kind of slowly chipping away, and then they ended up tying the game late in the 4th quarter, and I was like, we're going to blow another game. We're going to do the same thing we did the last 2 years. We blew the Arizona game after we had a lead, or after we had a lead late, and we're going to blow this game, and we're going to, just like we did in Seattle, I mean, I was just like, you can't possibly be serious, not again. And then Aaron Rodgers got the ball back again. We had gotten into field goal range, and Crosby hit a 58-yard field goal to give us the lead. That was like, I was like, well, we've got, we left them some time. We left them like a minute 30. So they go down the field, of course, they tie the game, Dan Bailey, then Rodgers gets the ball back. And I was thinking, when Rodgers, it was 3rd and 20, and I was thinking at that moment that he was going to throw it deep. I thought he was going to throw a Hail Mary there. I was like, because I saw him spin out of the pocket, I'm like, wait, why are we throwing a Hail Mary now? We have like 15, 20 seconds. We can still get downfield here. But he throws it across his body and to the sideline, and just the pure awesomeness of that throw. And then there was the field goal. Set us up for the 51-yard field goal. The first time they called the timeout, and I remember I was with my friends, and they were all cheering like we had won the game, and I'm like, shut up, they called the timeout. So they do it again, and they get the hold down, Crosby kicks it, and it's just like hanging on a thread. It was like it could go either way, and it just barely snuck into that field goal post, and the Packers ended up winning, and the whole team was celebrating on the field, and they were all dogpiling Crosby, and I remember, oh my God, we were freaking out. It was just, I was just so happy, and I remember on the drive back home, I had all my windows down, this was January, and I was just like honking the horn and screaming, go Pat, go, the whole way home. It was just, oh man, just thinking about it, my hands are getting sweaty, and it's just, but yeah, that is my top 5 list. So to recap, I had 2018 Week 1 at number 5, Rodgers to Cobb Week 17 at number 4, Rodgers to Rodgers Hail Mary number 3, Super Bowl 45 number 2, and 2016 Divisional number 1. Thanks for watching, you guys. I really appreciate you guys tuning in to watch this first episode of Packer Top 5s. I'd love to hear what your guys' top 5 games that you've experienced are in the comment section below, as well as any suggestions for this series going forward. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at @OberSports41512 and on Instagram using Jacob_Ober, and I'll see you guys next time. Go Pack Go.